Liz finds a friend. This is from the Magic School Bus through Scholastic. And it's written by Tracy West and illustrated by Carolyn Bracken. Liz was spending the weekend at Phoebe's house, and Phoebe had a pet kitten. Ralphie came over to say hi. How is Liz? My new kitten seems to like her a lot, Phoebe said, but I'm not sure Liz likes my kitten. Oh dear, look at Liz. Ralphie had an idea. Maybe Liz needs a pet of her own. I've never heard of a lizard that has its own pet, said Phoebe. Why not, said Ralphie. Maybe you're right, said Phoebe. She looked at the kitten. Then she looked at Liz. The kitten has fur, Liz doesn't. Maybe Liz needs to be with an animal that's more like herself. Ralphie grabbed Liz. There are lots of different animals at the pet store. Let's go. How are Liz and this kitten alike? How are Liz and this kitten different? I'm Mrs. Critters, the pet store owner said. How can I help you? We're looking for a pet for our class lizard, Ralphie said. Miss Critters looked at Liz. How about a hamster? They're cuddly. Phoebe remembered the kitten. A hamster and a kitten both have fur, but we need something more like Liz. I see, said Miss Critters. Kittens and hamsters are mammals. Liz is a reptile. You want a reptile. Just then a bell rang. Oh dear, it's feeding time for the speck geckos. I'll be right back. Miss Critters left the room. Miss Critters is right, Phoebe said. We need a reptile. What's the difference between a mammal and a reptile? Ralphie asked. Mammals are warm-blooded. Their bodies are always the same temperature, said Phoebe. But reptiles are cold-blooded and they need to sun themselves to keep warm and to stay in the shade to cool down. Ralphie looked at Liz. I know something else. Reptiles don't have fur. So we need something that has scales, like that fish. Ralphie took Liz over to the fish tank. How would you like a pet fish? He asked. How are Liz and the fish alike? How are they different? Ralphie frowned. I don't think Liz likes them. Shh. Maybe that's because the fish isn't a reptile, Phoebe said. Fish can breathe underwater and reptiles need to breathe air. Ralphie looked around at the pet shop. What else do reptiles do? Fish and reptiles have something in common, Phoebe said. Most of them lay eggs. Ralphie ran to the bird sections. Bird laid eggs, too. Come on, Liz. How are Liz and the birds alike? And how are they different? Wait, Ralphie said. I think I got carried away. A bird isn't a reptile, is it? A parakeet perched on Phoebe's finger. You're right, she said. I bet I know why, Ralphie said. Birds and reptiles both lay eggs, but birds have feathers, and reptiles don't. You're right, Ralphie, Phoebe said. Ralphie spotted a frog and he grabbed Liz. Frogs can't fly, and they don't have fur, and they lay eggs. Let's try this frog. How are Liz and the frog alike? And how are they different? A frog is like a reptile, Phoebe said, but it's not a reptile, it's an amphibian. I knew that, Ralphie said. Reptiles and amphibians are both cold-blooded, but reptiles have scales and amphibians, well, they have smooth skin. Right, Phoebe said, as Liz climbed out of the frog tank. Most reptiles don't live in water. Miss Critters came back into the room. Reptile, you're looking for a reptile, right? Miss Critters took Liz to a tank with a snake in it. Liz, meet Sally Slithers. Miss Critters said she's a reptile, too. She has no fur. She wants to breathe air. She lays eggs. She needs the sun to stay warm and the shade to stay cool. It looks like the snake was too much fun, though, for Liz. Can you find any other reptiles in the pet store? Ralphie looked around. He looked around the pet store. There must be some kind of pet we can find for Liz, he said. I don't know, Ralphie, Phoebe said. We've tried everything. We've tried a mammal. We've tried a fish. We've tried a bird, we've tried an amphibian, and we've even tried another reptile. Liz was tired from trying to find a pet, and she was ready for a nap. Phoebe looked at Liz and she smiled. Compared to all those other strange pets, my kitten isn't so bad after all, Phoebe said. Ralphie laughed. I guess you don't have to be the same kind of animal to be friends.